Marine reacts to SCP-049, known as the Plague Doctor, or Object Class Euclid, and is a sentient SCP by TheVolgun. As always, I'm going to post a link to the original video and channel down below in the description. So one SCP in particular that I've seen that has been really piquing my curiosity has been this Plague Doctor. I mean, I've seen memes on YouTube, Facebook, everything about people cosplaying as a Plague Doctor, and just the way it looked, and like now that I find out that it's actually an SCP as well, kind of really piqued my interest into checking them out. And as always, I feel like TheVolgun always has the best information on when researching SCPs, so I decided to check it out. Also, some people have also commented in the comments, which is a really good sign, because you guys usually always pick really great ones that have really great information on them and really great stories. And real quick, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps me out. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Click that notification bell right here. That way you get updated every time I upload. Typically uploading once or even twice a day, as I'm trying now, and usually recording them in the morning and then try to release them in the afternoon so you all can watch them after you guys get off work at your leisure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. See what this Plague Doctor is about.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be studying today is SCP-49.
He looks creepy as hell.
Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-49 is contained within a standard secure humanoid containment cell in Research Sector 2 at Site-19. SCP-49 must be sedated before any attempts to transport it.
Does anybody know the locations of these sites, by the way?
SCP-49 must be secured within a Class 3 humanoid restriction harness, including a locking collar and extension restraints, and monitored by no fewer than 2 armed guards. While SCP-49 is generally cooperative with most Foundation personnel, outbursts or sudden changes in behavior are to be met with elevated force. Under no circumstances should any personnel come into direct contact with SCP-49 during these outbursts. In the event SCP-49 becomes aggressive,
does he
the
infect people or
application
something?
of lavender, L. multifida, has been shown to produce a calming effect on the entity.
Looks
Once
like lavender does it.
SCP-49 generally becomes compliant and will return to containment with little resistance. In order to facilitate the ongoing containment of SCP-49,
I'm assuming he's got some form of
the
super
entity
strength.
is to be provided with a corpse of a recently deceased animal, typically a bovine or other large mammal, once every 2 weeks for study. Corpses that become instances of SCP-49-2 are to be removed from SCP-49's containment cell and incinerated. SCP-49 is no longer permitted to interact with human subjects, and requests for human subjects are to be denied. Temporary
No longer permitted, so he was
See Addendum
conducting on human
49.3.
subjects then, right?
Per Containment Committee Order 049.S19.17.1, SCP-49 is no longer permitted to interact directly with any members of Foundation staff, nor is it to be provided with any additional corpses to be used in its surgeries. This order shall persist indefinitely, until such time a consensus regarding the ongoing containment of SCP-49 can be reached. Description: SCP-49 is a humanoid entity, roughly 1.9 meters in height.
I don't know my meters.
Which bears
I'm
the
gonna have to search
appearance
that up
of a
later.
medieval plague doctor. While SCP-49 appears to be wearing thick robes, and the ceramic mask indicative of that profession, the garments instead seem to have grown out of SCP-49's body over time, and are now nearly indistinguishable from whatever form is beneath them. X-rays indicate
So even
that
the
despite
robes
this,
are like his skin or
SCP-49
something?
does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. SCP-49 is capable of speech in a variety of languages, though it tends to prefer English or medieval French.
Multiple
While
languages.
SCP-49 is generally cordial and cooperative with Foundation staff, it can become easily irritated or at times outright aggressive if it feels that it is in the presence of what it calls the pestilence. Although the
Like the
exact
plague?
nature of this pestilence is currently unknown to Foundation researchers,
No, well,
it
then
does
I'm
seem to
assuming
be
that.
an issue of immense concern to SCP-49.
I mean, these guys were typically
SCP-49
seen
will
during
become
the
hostile
bubonic
with
plague, right?
individuals it sees as being affected by the pestilence, often having to be restrained should it encounter such. If left unchecked, SCP-49 will generally attempt to kill any such individual. SCP-49 is capable of causing all biological functions of an organism to cease through direct skin contact. How this occurs is currently unknown.
So he touches them and they die.
Autopsies of SCP-49's victims have invariably been inconclusive. SCP-49 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, though will usually seek to perform a crude surgery on the corpse using the implements contained within a black doctor's bag it carries on its person at all times. While these surgeries are not always successful, they often result in the creation of instances of SCP-49-2.
What if it's like a disease that we're not aware of? Maybe?
Are reanimated corpses,
and he does, but that's why he also feels remorse that he has to kill the person to maybe prevent that infection?
These do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little, and in a generally ambulatory fashion, they can become extremely aggressive if provoked, or if directed to by SCP-49.
So they're kind of like zombies then.
SCP-49-2 instances express active biological functions, though these are vastly different from currently understood human physiology. Despite these alterations, SCP-49 often remarks that the subjects have been cured. Addendum 49.1 Discovery. SCP-49 was discovered during the investigation of a series of unknown disappearances in the town of Montauban in southern France. During a raid on a local home, investigators found several instances of SCP-49-2 as well as SCP-49. While law enforcement personnel engaged the hostile 49-2 instances, SCP-49 was noted as watching the engagement.
This guy just kind of seems like a mad scientist in a sense.
After all of the 49-2 instances were dispatched, SCP-49 willingly entered Foundation custody. The following interview was conducted by Dr. Raymond Ham during the initial investigation. Interviewer, Dr. Raymond Ham, Site 85. Interviewee, SCP-49. Playing log, now.
Alors, comment devrions-nous commencer une introduction? Is that French?
I speak a little bit of French.
Translator. The King's English. No need for translation, sir. I can speak it well enough.
This voice sounds very suave.
My name is Dr. Raymond Ham, and I... a doctor. A like-minded individual, no doubt. Wherein is your speciality, sir? Cryptobiology. Why? A medical man, such as myself. Wonders abound. And here, I worried I had been abducted by common street thugs. This place, then, this is your laboratory. I had wondered, as clean as it is, and with such little trace of the pestilence.
They're being very vague with this pestilence stuff.
What do you mean? The scourge.
And then when you brought him back as a zombie, essentially, he said he was cured.
Come now. You know the... what is it they call it? No matter. The pestilence, yes. It abounds outside these walls, you know. So many have succumbed, and many more will continue to, until such time as a perfect cure can be developed.
Whenever I hear the word perfect in anything, it always leads to sketchy things.
Very close. It is my duty in life to rid the world of it, you see. The cure, to end all cures. When you say the great dying, are you talking about the bubonic plague? I don't know what that is.
What?
See. Right, well...
What? Okay. I feel like the writer had a little bit of fun there.
You encountered them, yes. You reanimated them. In a manner of speaking, you see things too simply, Doctor.
They're always so vague with these things.
Horizons. Life and death, sickness and health. These are amateur terms for amateur physicians. There is only one ailment that exists in the world of men, and that is the pestilence, and nothing else. Make no mistake, they were very ill. All of them. You think you cured those people? Indeed. My cure is most effective.
So is it reanimation?
Recovered were not human.
In terms of like you seeing that you're curing them?
Well, it is not a perfect cure, but that will come with time and further experimentation. I have spent a lifetime developing
How long has
my
this guy
methods
been
of
experimenting though?
and will spend a lifetime more if necessary. Now, we have wasted too much time. There is work to do. I will require a laboratory of my own, one where I can continue my research unimpeded. And assistance, of course, though I can provide those on my own.
I mean, somebody who could reanimate people. I immediately start thinking like they're making an army for some reason, maybe.
Fetch your coat and show me to my quarters, Doctor. Our work.
This guy's dictating everything now, isn't he?
Interviewer's note. While SCP-49 is capable of communicating in a very human way, there is a strange sense of unease that one experiences when in its presence. Make no mistake, there is something very uncanny about this entity, indeed.
I mean, just look at the
Additionally,
guy.
we've confiscated that pointed stick that SCP-49 keeps waving around. Part of this was due to standard confiscation protocols for the possession of anomalies, and part because 49 really is a menace, swinging it around like he does. The entity was displeased at first, but after we made some concessions in providing it with test subjects, which are admittedly more for the benefit of our own research, it
I'm
warmed up
assuming
to the
D-class
idea.
personnel.
Addendum 49.2 Observation Log. While in containment at Site-19, SCP-49 has spent a considerable amount of time studying and performing surgery on the various mammalian corpses it had been provided. SCP-49 will routinely spend several days performing surgery, and then, regardless of whether or not the corpse becomes an instance of SCP-49-2, spending several more days documenting its findings in a thick leather journal.
So this guy really
within
just
its
enjoys
doctor's bag.
killing things, or
SCP-49
things
will
that are
often
already
seek
dead,
to share its
and
findings
then likes to bring them
with
back.
members of Foundation staff. The following is a log of several occasions during which SCP-49 was observed operating on a mammalian corpse. Observational Log 49.OL.1 Summary. Subject SCP-49. Preface. A test subject, D-85-123, was introduced into SCP-49's
D-class?
containment cell. The entity expressed sincere gratitude towards all members of the containment and research staff. Observation notes. SCP-49 began by asking D-85-123 several standard medical questions as it began removing tools from its bag. Shortly after finishing its preparations, SCP-49 quickly closed the distance between the two, killing the subject with a touch to its throat. Afterwards, SCP-49 made a number of considerable alterations to the basic structure of the subject's corpse, often introducing fluids from within its bag into the subject
But what kind
by
of
way of
fluids?
a hand-powered pump and copper tubing. The resulting 49-2 instance became animated, flailing and grasping at the walls of the chamber with a number of manufactured limbs while moaning out of an oblong orifice now present in its sternum. During this time, SCP-49
So it really seems like
was
this
observed
fluid is
taking
what really
notes of
makes
the
him come
instance in
back
its
then, right?
journal and remarking to the watching research staff about the efficacy of its cure. Security personnel entered the chamber to move SCP-49 back to containment and were attacked by the instance. The security team dispatched the 49-2 instance, and SCP-49 returned to containment with no resistance, stating that it was pleased with the results. Observational Log 49.OL.2 Summary. Subject SCP-49. Preface. SCP-49 was provided the corpse of a recently
doesn't really
deceased
matter so long
goat.
as it's like something that
SCP-49
is a
expressed
living thing.
gratitude at the provision. Observation notes. SCP-49 operated on the goat corpse for several days, eventually resulting in an instance of SCP-49-2. SCP-49 expressed pleasure in this outcome, though admitted the disease was still in its nascent stage. My veterinarian practice is rudimentary, but the patient responded well to the procedure. Observational Log 49.OL.3 Summary. Subject SCP-49. Preface. SCP-49 was provided the corpse of a recently deceased orangutan. SCP-49 expressed noted gratitude at the provision due to the similarities between the orangutan and common human physiology. Observation notes. SCP-49 spent several days operating on the orangutan, reanimating it several times. However, SCP-49 appeared to be discontent with the results it experienced, returning to the creature 3 times after its initial reanimation for additional work. After it was unable to reanimate,
I kind of wish it would describe like what exactly has happened during the surgery, because as far as I know, he uses some tubing and a fluid.
Incineration, stating, "I have learned so much from this, though I fear my early optimism was misplaced. I hadn't yet come across such a stumbling block on my road
because we really don't know what he's actually doing internally with the body,
great deal
as far as like maybe
research.
Readjusting organs
49.0
and whatnot, you know, things like that.
Full. Subject, SCP-49. Preface, SCP-49 was provided the corpse of a recently deceased bovine. SCP-49
No idea what a bovine
expressed
is.
mild annoyance at the provision, though it accepted it nonetheless. Observation notes. SCP-49 spent several days operating on the bovine corpse, breaking only to dine on a requested dinner of thin crackers, salted pork, and hard cheese. Beginning first by embalming the corpse,
Oh, so he does eat.
SCP-49 was observed producing a number of long syringes from its bag, each containing a different dark viscous fluid. SCP-49 described these fluids as essences of the humors, and elaborated by saying the pestilence may bring about a systemic imbalance. In such case, before true healing can begin, one must find the humors in balance, or the body will reject the cure.
What does it mean by humors?
Over
though?
the next few days, SCP-49 spent a considerable amount of time adjusting the organs of the bovine corpse with a number of large metal instruments. After 8 days, SCP-49 produced a lightning rod, which Dr. Ham exchanged for an electric cattle prod attached to an extension cord, and struck the corpse in several locations. This action seemingly had the effect of reanimating the bovine, which once again became ambulatory, despite the inversion of the head and reorientation of its limbs. And this is a follow-up interview to the previous observation logs. Playing log now.
We've watched you work for several weeks now, and honestly, I'm not sure I understand what you're doing.
Yeah, he's asking the right questions
Describe
now.
your process in detail.
Oh, goodness no. The process is most intensive. As I said to your assistant, the best instruction you will find about my methods are here in my journals, as I have kept exhaustive records of my work there.
I see. Well, my concern, Doctor,
Gotta find
is
these journals and
that we
see
still don't
what's the
understand
what.
you're seeking to cure, or how it manifests, or how turning these creatures into quasi-living, mindless drones helps in that effort.
You do not understand the pestilence, even
That's
after
because
all
you're
this
not
time.
specific.
Doctor, it is an unspeakable horror, one that has shown its true face many times before, and will again.
It seems to me that he thinks of it as a maybe philosophical reason. I don't know why I had trouble pronouncing that word.
Cannot. It is a cruel judgment, I fear, to be at the mercy of a disease you cannot fully comprehend.
So,
That still doesn't answer my question. How's your cure any kind of cure at all?
It is a cure. You may laugh at my efforts if you please, but do not besmirch the
I mean, if he
name
kills
of
them, then
scientific progress that
in
has
a sense, it
developed
could be
this
seen as a
great
cure,
mercy.
because,
What
I
you
mean, they're dead.
short-sightedly see here is a life better than any this creature could have hoped for. Stricken as it was with the pestilence,
It seems like he's
this
choosing
creature
for them.
is now clean, unable to spread the pestilence, and free from the terror it would have experienced otherwise.
This is hardly a creature at all, Doctor.
Why does it seem? It seems like he's trying to talk about
You and your colleagues
life in
are
general.
like so many others, unable to look past minor setbacks to see the salvation taking place before your very eyes. Do you wait to remove rotten timbers until the whole collapses on top of you? No. You find them and you pull them out and replace them with those untouched by rot. And most of all, you do not simply mock the structure because it now looks
I have a
different
theory
to
now,
you.
but I'm gonna go ahead and save that for the end of the
It is
video.
strong. It is free of disease.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to agitate you. I'm just trying to understand.
Yes. Well, do mind your words in the future, Doctor. I am a professional, but even professionals may feel the bite of pride in dealing with criticism of their masterpiece. I will forgive this as an act of good faith between colleagues.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that will be all. Another test subject on the usual schedule. You know,
Really want to know how long he's been doing this for.
human anatomies.
Because if at this point he hasn't found a cure, or his cure,
Attending researchers note, SCP-49 does seem to genuinely want to help other humans, though it has not yet been able to provide a concrete example of what exactly it is trying to save us all from. I have watched it now for several weeks, and while the outcomes do not seem to ever change, SCP-49 continues to claim that it is growing closer to its perfect cure. I think the entity may be more aware of the reality of these outcomes than it would
well, we
like
don't
us
know
to
if he's
think.
just doing the same thing over and over, hoping that eventually sometime
Addendum
it's going to take.
49.3.
Kind of the whole thing
April
with insanity,
16th,
doing the same thing over and over,
2017
expecting a different
incident.
result. You know,
Starting
this guy might
shortly
be
after
insane.
SCP-49's initial containment, Dr. Ham conducted a number of interviews with the subject regarding its anomalous properties, and over time began to note its displeasure with its subjects and SCP-49-2 instances. This continued for a period of several months, during which SCP-49 never exhibited any aggressive behaviors. On April 16, 2017, as Dr. Ham was entering SCP-49's test chamber to conduct another routine interview, the entity began to grow anxious and asked Dr. Ham if he was feeling well. Following protocol, Dr. Ham reminded SCP-49 that the interview was required, after which the entity became hostile and attacked Dr.
I'm going to assume
Ham,
he had the pestilence then?
killing him. Due to a lapse in security protocol and because Dr. Ham did not activate the in-chamber emergency system, Dr. Ham's corpse was not discovered until 3 hours later, by which point SCP-49 had converted it into an instance of SCP-49-2. In the aftermath of this incident, SCP-49 was interviewed by Dr.
Real
Theron
quick, are they
Shum,
interviewing him in person?
playing log.
Or like,
Now,
why not do it like through a protective
I
screen?
need you to explain yourself.
Or Zoom call?
SCP-049, you are being directed to explain your actions, and I will remind you that failure to cooperate will result in further restrictions during your containment.
My actions do not need to be explained.
You killed Raymond Ham, and then butchered him until he...
Not dead. No, not dead. He is cured.
Cured? Cured of what?
Pestilence, sir. I had thought you, at least, would realize what luck it is. I detected it before.
What pestilence? You keep going on and on about this pestilence, but you have
This
not
is really
once
starting to
been able
confirm some
properly
theories I
identify this
have right now.
disease. What could you have possibly seen in him today that you had not seen so many times before? That it would be worth his life?
The pestilence presents and progresses in unforeseeable fashions, and has a queer way of creeping into the unprepared. And call it what you want, Doctor. It was a mercy I did to him. He is cured.
He is a vegetable.
I would not expect you to understand. You and your ilk have proven time and time again not to be men of science, but men of emotion. You cannot appreciate the
That's a
horrors
pretty good
I've
quote.
seen. Those many millions who have succumbed to the pestilence and been changed.
Your cure cost Ray his life.
No, good sir, I have saved it. You would allow this world to slip back into the despair of disease and death, ignoring that I have created a miracle.
What disease? What pestilence? He was a healthy man. He was a good doctor.
I'm offering it freely to the afflicted. You are not worth this argument, sir. You are short-sighted and foolish. Dr. Ham was sick.
I wonder if this guy just has a prolonged lifespan or if he's actually immortal.
I cured him.
your allowances
Can be
revoked.
saved. Even you.
Welcome to Containment 049.
Might be saved.
We're done here.
I can save them all. I can cast down this plague once and for all. I can do this. Only me.
But why only
saved
him?
I saved him. Dr. Ham. I cured him.
He does
was
seem like
sick.
he
I know he was
regrets
sick.
what he did
I know
as far
he
as
was.
killing him.
And you are all sick, but I can save you. I can save all of you because I am the cure.
See, now that raises a lot of
Addendum
questions.
49.4 Post-Incident Report Interview. The following interview is an excerpt from the April 16, 2017 49 Incident Report. The interview was conducted by Dr. Elijah Itkin and took place 3 weeks after the start of the initial investigation. Playing now.
SCP-049, we are conducting this interview to close out our
And
investigation.
they
of
really
an
switch
accident
doctors around,
on
don't they?
April 16th that resulted in the death of a staff member. Do you have any comments to make?
Only that I look forward to the day when you will allow me to resume my work. I have spent the last few weeks compiling my notes and constructing a new theory for how the pestilence was able to infect someone in such an insidious manner that I nearly couldn't detect it.
Have you experienced any remorse for your actions? For the death of Dr. Ham?
Ah, yes. Well, the death of a colleague is always regrettable, but in the face of the pestilence, we must be swift, Doctor, and act.
This guy's really up to like the whole
hesitation.
do what you gotta do for the
Dr.
greater good.
Sherman noted in his
Which is kind of like
report
what
that you
how the
seemed
SCP
mournful
runs,
during your initial
or
interview.
SCP Foundation runs.
Perhaps I had not thought that. It is lamentable that a fellow doctor became infected, but the work continues. Regrettable as it was, Dr. Ham's death provided important insight. Living human subjects are the only way to proceed forward, I am decided. My cure is of little use on dead flesh, and I have gleaned all I can from your generous supply of corpses.
You gotta give them a legitimate reason or explain something in a way that they would understand as to why you're doing what you're doing.
I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, Doctor, I wouldn't be so sure.
Okay. I think that about does it for today.
Alright, real quick. Before I get into my little theory that I kind of got like halfway through the video, does this guy have like super strength or like any type of physical quick speed or anything like that? Because it kind of just seems like I mean, obviously it's dangerous. He touches you and then you're dead. That's it. But it doesn't seem like he has anything like supernatural about him in terms of like his speed, his durability, his strength, anything like that. But then again, I'm not too sure. I might have to read a little more into him. But here's my theory. So he kept on talking about a cure, and he kept on talking about pestilence. Obviously, I thought it was the bubonic plague. David mentioned it on here. He didn't even know about it. But when he says that he sees millions fall to disease, and I forgot what else he said along that line, but it seems in a sense like he's been alive for so long that he's seen a lot of people die from disease. But then he probably realized that the one big disease is probably like maybe death in and of itself. Like, because he's killing them, but then he brings them back to life. And I'm assuming if you're like a reanimated corpse, you're immune to like disease. So it seems like he's trying to find a way to give people immortality so that they can't die. And then that's why he feels so much regret when people actually die, or he ends up killing someone to quote unquote save them. So this is what I'm thinking also. The doctor that he killed, we didn't really get too much of an explanation as to why he died, besides the fact that he was carrying the pestilence. So I'm assuming he may have had something that was maybe slowly eating away at him, like maybe he had cancer or something physical or something mentally, even to the point where it's like his life is getting close to that line. I mean, even if he's old, to like if you're getting older, you're gonna pass. Everybody passes away. When you get older, it becomes more higher. So something maybe happened, maybe in his personal life, and this guy, the plague doctor, was like, hey, this guy's got it. I want to try to save him before he gets taken by the disease. Because he said something about like people who are already corpses, it doesn't really provide too much results for what he's looking for. So if he can kill them and they're fresh, then he can reanimate them. And I feel like that's the big thing right there. I feel like it has to do something with like death or life in a sense, because it doesn't seem like it's a physical disease. It seems like it's more of a philosophical type of subject that he's trying to get, and that's why we wouldn't be able to understand it fully. So that was just my theory on it. I kept on saying like little evidence here and there that would also kind of like help support it, but then again, I don't know. If someone does know for a fact like what the author or what is supposed to be quote unquote the pestilence, please let me know in the comments down below. I would be very curious to see if this theory is right. Alright, that's gonna go ahead and be it for this video. Don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps me a lot. Or dislike if you didn't like it, it really helps me improve the channel. Subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified every time I upload. And once again, I just gotta quickly say I'm loving these SCPs. I want to literally just kind of like binge them, but I know I want to provide a first time seeing like reaction. Otherwise, I'm gonna know what to expect. But this way, if I see it just for the first time, then I kind of get like a fresh look at it, and you guys get to see like what I'm actually like thinking at the same time. So some of the times I might not talk too much, but that's because I'm really trying to integrate or ingrain what I'm actually like hearing and seeing. I want to thank you all again real quick, and also comment down below what kind of SCPs are your favorite. And until then, go ahead and see you all in the next video. Bye.